Welcome back to Old Soul Torah. We are in Sefer Shmot, the book of the Exodus, Parshat Vayakhel, chapter 35. The purpose of our lesson today is to focus on Shabbat. Shabbat, the Sabbath, is mentioned in two verses in this week's Parsha in the very beginning, and Moshe instructs us what not to do on Shabbat. What does this have to do with the Mishkan? Well, if the Mishkan, the tabernacle, is about creating sacred community or sacred space, then definitely we want to know what not to include on the Sabbath day, because essentially Shabbat is sacred time aligned with sacred space. You want to create a holy environment, and there's certain things that shouldn't be brought into that environment. But no further ado, let's look at those verses, what it says. On 6 days work may be done, but on the 7th day you shall have a Sabbath of complete rest, holy to Hashem. You shall kindle no fire throughout your settlements on the Sabbath day. So as we've seen in these verses, that there's two prohibitions. There's two things that you should separate from creating the sacred space of Shabbat. The first thing is anything that has to do with Sheshet Yimei HaMaaseh, which means the 6 days of the week. That includes activities and especially melachot, or labor, forbidden types of labor that would take you out of Shabbos and bring you right back into the world of creating and mastery over nature. So we're going to separate and distance ourselves from those things. That's the outer environment. And the second verse is what to do with the inner environment. Thou shalt not kindle fires within your camps, within your settlements, your communities, your families, your households, and essentially within yourself. All the Hasidic masters and many of the Ba'alei Musar teach us that the kindling of fire is likened to anger. Okay, it's getting angry, it's getting worked up, it's bringing back that destructive energy that divides people, that harms people, and essentially, if not controlled, it spreads. It destroys loving relationships and important partnerships and your connection to others. So now that we know what not to do, anything that has to do with worldliness, that's what you unplug and withdraw from. But now the real question is, what do you fill the sacred time and sacred space with? How do you make Shabbat happen? In the Saturday afternoon Kiddush, it says, La'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'rit olam. That means to la'asot et ha-Shabbat. You're supposed to do the Shabbat. Do the Shabbat? What does it mean to do the Shabbat? La'asot et ha-Shabbat is to make it happen. L'dorotam, for generations, b'rit olam, in eternal covenant. It goes on forever and ever and ever. So the question is what do we do to make Shabbat happen? And what I'm about to show you is something that was shared with me by a Hasidic rabbi. I haven't found the exact source, the exact text, but it's a brilliant idea that should not disappear and fade in time. I want to show you the 5 levels of how to make Shabbat happen and work for you. Because keeping Shabbat, we're not looking for a perfectionist model. There's no such thing as perfect. But there are levels, there are hierarchies. Let's look at the text itself. On Friday night, we bring in the Shabbat by making Kiddush, pouring a glass of wine, and saying 2 blessings. The first blessing, Vayakhelu, is from Genesis chapter 2, proclaiming that God completed the creation, rested on the 7th day, and blessed it. Saying this gives testimony that Hashem created the world, and Shabbat is his divine gift to us. But let's go to the very first paragraph. That's what we're interested in, because we're going to see the 5 levels of keeping Shabbat embedded within the text itself of the Torah. Looking at the English translation, we see 5 main verbs pertaining to the original Shabbat. These 5 words directly correspond to the 5 levels of keeping Shabbat. We have level 1, to complete. We have level 2, to finish. Level 3, to rest. Level 4, to bless. And level 5, to make holy or to sanctify. And here it is once again in the Hebrew. And now, let's bring them all together to see what they mean. So level 1, this is the basic level. This is where we begin. And it means to finish, to complete something. And this means physical labor, meaning you're going to put the week to rest. Whatever you were doing during that week, you finish it, you complete it. It's an external form of rest. And number 2 is a mental form of rest. So, because your body could stop working, but your mind could be somewhere else. Number 3 is Vayishbot, and that is when you're already beginning to experience the joy and the delight of Shabbat, the deep rewards of inner peace, and really getting into the whole rhythm and groove of the day. Finally, number 4, Vayivarech, means to bless, and that is a little bit more than inner peace. That's it's receiving the blessing, the divine energy, the shefa of Shabbat. The spiritual higher energy is starting to be received by you. And the holiest level is number 5, Vayikadesh, to sanctify. That's when you're absolute unity with God, when you're immersed in prayer and Torah study and holy thoughts and elevated thinking and the whole, this is already the level of a taste of the world to come, of paradise. And all these levels correspond to the 5 levels of the soul. You'll see at the end of every line, you have nefesh, ruach, neshama chaya, yechida, which means the 5 levels of the soul. And starting with the very basic animal soul, all the way up to the part of your soul that is no separation with God. It's absolute unity with God. And so Shabbat comes to reward all those different parts of ourselves. So one of the things that I really love about this teaching is there are 5 levels of Shabbat, and you're not always going to fulfill all of them. But if you can at least begin somewhere, it is connecting to the idea of Shabbat rest and the divine gift that Hashem has for you. So for example, from the beginning, the lowest level, all it means is to finish everything you're doing during the week. So if that's how you connect with Shabbat, wonderful. Okay, but you also need the mental rest, the second level, Vayichal. It means to complete. It's not just an external finishing, but an inner releasing, a letting go. And then the third level is beginning to feel the joy, the simcha of the holy day. And then you're reaching Vayivarech, you're receiving the blessings, Mikadesh, you're already on such a high, lofty level. So if you're not always doing all of the levels perfectly, that's okay. It's still Shabbos. It's still Shabbat. You're still keeping the Sabbath in your way, at the level that you can relate to, given the environment and the resources that you have. Shabbat is a sanctuary in time, a sacred space where we step back from melacha, acts of creation and control, to recognize the world as complete. Just as we refrain from kindling physical fire, we also avoid igniting flames of anger and discord, preserving the tranquility of this holy day. In this stillness, we make room to fill Shabbat with its deeper dimensions, reflected in the 5 levels encoded in its first mention in Genesis, transforming rest into renewal, presence into connection, and time into a gateway to the infinite.
תהיה בשמחה תמיד